Hey y'all, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and in honor of this month, I just want to share a little bit of my story with you in hopes of adding some hope and encouragement to anybody who's ever experienced domestic violence or who is currently experiencing it now. And I just want to add a trigger warning, okay? If you're somebody who can't handle heavy subjects like this, then you probably don't want to keep watching. Mind you, I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but I'm just going to share a little bit about my story so that you can understand where I'm coming from and why this topic is so important for me and like why I do the things that I do. But before I share my story, you have to understand the mindset and the backstory a little bit about me. If you've been following my journey, then you know I talk about quite often about how I used to struggle with my worth. I used to struggle with my self-worth, my self-esteem, my confidence, like all of those things. And since I struggled with those things, which mostly came from other traumas, it led me to get into relationships that were not healthy for me because I was looking for love and what they say, all the wrong places. I was linking up with people who I thought would be able to fill that void and would make me feel more worthy, and that, just feeling like I just wanted to be loved by somebody. And so the bad thing about knowing your worth is that when you don't know who you are, when you don't know what you stand for, then people, they can usually sense that. And those are usually, this is me personally, this is what I like to say. This is my thought process. I think that people who are wanting to abuse people and to manipulate and to cause harm, they prey on people who don't know their worth, right? Because they know they're not going to put up much of a fight. And so that's how I initially got into these type of abusive relationships. And it was a cycle for me. It wasn't just one, it was many relationships, like one after another, it seems like. And I know sometimes people probably think, well, if you're getting all of these abusive relationships, then you must be the problem. You must be the provoking one. Like, what are you doing? But that's not always the case. The case for me was I simply did not know my worth. And so that's what led me into those type of relationships. And, I never was strong enough to fight back. I didn't have a voice at the time, so I never stood up for myself. I just silently endured. And these relationships, they were emotionally abusive, they were physically abusive. I would even go on a limb to say emotionally abusive relationships are one of the most toughest relationships to ever endure, because mentally, when somebody gets in your mind mentally, that's very hard to break down the layers. But this is why it's so important for you to know your worth, to develop it by any means necessary, so that you won't find yourself in certain situations, like I did. There were times when I had to get restraining orders to protect myself when things just got so far out of line. I remember one time this particular person, he broke into my apartment and was standing there waiting on me and staring me in my face as I looked surprised at the fact that they broke in through a window, right? Experiences like that. There was time where I've been spat on in my face. I've been pushed out of a moving car, like all of those things, y'all. And I know you're probably thinking like, wow, I would tear something up behind, if somebody did that to me. But the reason why I'm sharing that is because domestic violence does not have a face. Some of your closest friends or people in your communities or people who you talk to all the time could be experiencing domestic violence and going through it, and you would never know. Because all the times that I was going through it, I'm a very bubbly, joyful person, so I kept a smile, right? I stayed joyful. I didn't really open up to people and let them know what was going on, but I was dealing with that behind the scenes, and it was very heavy. And so it don't have a face. That's why I shared that, because I want you to know that it can happen to anybody. So that's a little bit of my story, but I want to talk to a few people. The first person being the person who has experienced domestic violence in the past, but you have escaped, you've gotten out, you are on the other side of it. First of all, I want to tell you that if you carry any shame, any guilt, any embarrassment about the things that you went through, don't do that to yourself. It was not your fault. It was never your fault. It's never your fault when you are manipulated by someone else, or when someone else abuses you emotionally or physically. That is never your fault. You got to give yourself a grace throughout the healing process, because healing is not linear. You will be triggered at times, right? You will have certain memories, and it takes you back to that spot. But you have to look at the brighter side, that you made it on the other side. You are out. And I hope that you're using this time to not only heal, but to go after all the dreams and the desires that you've ever wanted to do, because this is your opportunity to do so. That situation did not rob you of your life. You are still here, and that is a reason to celebrate. That is a reason to put your best foot forward with anything that you want to do in this life. So on top of knowing your worth, I hope you have also put up some healthy boundaries for yourself. Go out and be a light for other people, a beacon of hope for other people, to show them what's possible on the other side. And I hope you never let nobody else play with you like that ever again. Period. And the second person I want to speak to is the person who is currently going through similar situations right now. You have to get out. You have to know that there's so much better for you on the other side of a situation that you're currently in. Sometimes you may feel like you don't want anybody else to know, but you have to find a trusted, confided source that you can just confide in and let them help you. You have to utilize the resources around you. There's hotlines that you can call. You just have to let somebody know, because you do not deserve to be in that situation. You do not deserve to stay in that situation. And this is even more so importantly if you have kids. If you have kids, you have to think about the impact this could have on their lives, and how you making a decision right now to do what's best for you is ultimately the decision that's going to free them as well. You do not deserve to be stuck in a situation that you're in. And so don't be embarrassed. Again, this is something that a lot of people deal with. They may not share it out loud, but you are not alone. And so I just really want you to seek the help that you need, because your future is so much brighter. You have to think and visualize the future, your most ideal self. Like, what is he or she doing in order to get to that point? You have to make a way to get to that point, and it starts with now, making a decision now to get out of a situation that is harming you and that's not elevating you and that is not in alignment with that person. I'm really begging of you. You deserve so much more. And lastly, I want to talk to the people who may make comments like, that couldn't be me, or why didn't she get out? Why didn't he get out? Why they're still there? I would have been left. Listen, sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes it's not that easy to just walk away. And so I just want to suggest that you just be a little bit more encouraging, offer your support, show so much grace, show compassion to people who are dealing with things that you've never been through, because some of the people who experience this are some of the strongest people that you would think, especially on the surface. But mental abuse, when it gets to that level, it takes a lot to undo. And sometimes you just don't understand what you haven't been through. Offer your support to someone who you know is dealing with something, just that ear to hear. Sometimes your listening ear, your non-judgmental listening ear can be the difference to what encourages them to get out, to make them feel like they have a way out, and that makes them feel seen and makes them feel less embarrassed, or all the things. So I just want to encourage all the supporters out there to just show up with so much love, grace, and compassion when you're dealing with someone who has been in a domestic violence situation. But real quick, y'all, I don't want to end this story with all gloom and doom. There is hope at the end. There is life after, and I am a living testament of that. God has been so good to me, and I have overcome. I am a survivor. Okay, I'm a survivor. I now have an amazing business, Strands of Faith, which obviously you can tell by now that a lot of the faith and me keeping the faith, that's what kept me going. And so that's emerged into my hair care brand, because I just look at it as hair care meeting heart care. And this is part of what brings me joy, like sharing things like this. But I'm married now, y'all. I have an amazing husband. I have 4 beautiful kiddos. We just went to the fair last night. One of the situations I was telling y'all about earlier, well, I don't think I went into too much detail, but that situation where I got put out, where I got kicked out the car at the end of the street and almost got put out on the highway on the way home, that was at the fair. And now look, decades later, I enjoyed the fair last night with my kids. So there is hope. And I just don't want you to give up. I want you to keep going. Keep the faith, man. Keep the faith, okay? Because life does get better. So keep the faith. Bet on you, because God already did.